Do you feel fulfilled in love? The show will begin in 4 minutes. Are you ready? When was the last time you felt betrayed? When was the last time you felt loved? The show will begin in 3 minutes. Are you ready? What did it feel like to be in love? What is the most painful part of being in love? The show will begin in 2 minutes. Are you ready? Are you ready to be transformed? Are you ready to make a change? The show will begin in 1 minute. I hope you're ready. The show will begin in exactly 30 seconds. Get ready. What if I told you that your current understanding of how sex works with men is actually ruining your relationships? What if I also told you that a change in your approach to sex can actually be the difference between sex making you feel used and making you feel like it's the best part of a committed relationship? If you want to learn how to make a change in the most important part of any romantic relationship, then join me on today's show where we'll be discussing what I would tell you about sex if you were my daughter. That way, sex can stop being something that traumatizes you and start being something that makes you feel safe and connected to the man that you're in love with. Welcome to the Players Club. If you're paying attention to me and everyone else in the live stream, please stay here present so that I know you're here present and actively participating. How are all you beautiful people doing on this Monday afternoon? So good to see you. I know I'm so very, very late. TikTok was having me some issues, you know what I mean? I was trying to log in, having some trouble logging in, but we got it to work, okay? We're here now. Who we got up in the chats here? We got in the TikTok chat, I see Sylvia here, Erica here, Chastity here, Lena Leak here, Abigail is here, Alyssa's here, Sarah's here, Angie's here, Jessica is here, or is it Cassidy is here? Welcome all of you. And of course, we have our three moderators, Sharice, SH, and Scotty in the TikTok chat. Who we got over in the YouTube chat? I see we got Kayla here, NW here, Jazzy here, Nikki here, Mary Kim here, Melita here. I haven't even seen it yet, but I'm sure Tracy Niles, one of our amazing channel members, is here. I know I see Great Fortune Cookie up in the chat here, one of our amazing channel members. Nicole Cottom, one of our amazing channel members as well. Welcome all you beautiful people up in the chat. And of course, we have Missy America holding it down for us. Let's get started today. Don't want to waste any more time because today's topic is kind of like an extended topic. We have a lot to discuss here. And I'm sure we'll have some first timers. So even though this topic is a bit general, we're going to cover some things that we haven't talked about yet in the Players Club that I really want to specifically address to all of you beautiful, beautiful souls, okay? I should have gotten a better eraser over the weekend. Anyways. All right. Let's start off with number one, our number one point here. Now, this is really, I think, important in terms of setting the stage for everything else that we're going to be learning here and understanding here. And I think it's such an important understanding about sex, okay? I'm saying it like it's a bad word, because I think it will really change the way that you approach things. And I want it to change the way that you approach things for the better here. So we're gonna start off with our little drawing here, right? Obviously we have a man here, and then we have you here. So here's the thing that I kind of want you to consider when it comes to sex. See, the experience of sex when you're having it and when a man is having it with you is two different experiences. Now, your understanding of what these two different experiences are will drastically change the way that you see what's happening or view what's happening. It'll also hopefully change the way that you approach what is happening. So what do I mean by that? And let's kind of talk about this and discuss this. And I think that this is such an important part in your understanding. Want to make sure I spell that right. In your understanding of your relationships, right? So men are conquering. What does conquering really mean? I'm not talking about like, you know, necessarily like we're cavemen. I just want to use the word so that we're all of the same understanding. The men are taking something. Right? What does taking something really mean in this scenario? When you are sleeping with a man for the very first time, you are opening not just your legs, as you might think, you're also opening your heart. And I'm also going to put in parentheses here, your soul and your spirit, right? Now, because we're talking about sex, one of the most important parts of any relationship, we're also going to get spiritual. You might not necessarily be a religious person, but there is a spiritual aspect to the act of sex. And I have to mention this because it's so important for us to be of the same understanding here. You are opening your heart, your mind, your soul, your spirit to a man and receiving him into you in the act of having sex with a man. It's so important to understand that, because when you understand that and you understand that he's taking something, then you also have to ask yourself a question. Well, if he's taking something from me and he's receiving something from me, right? He's taking something from me that I'm giving, that I have to offer. What am I giving him, right? Or am I giving him something? You are. You are gifting him, right? You are giving your gift, right? Now, what is the specific gift that you are giving in this process? You are giving him a little piece of you. See, when he conquers you, so to speak, when he inserts himself inside of you, I know I'm getting a little bit graphic, but there's no way for me to talk about this without getting graphic. He actually also, I know we talked about you receiving here, right? But he is also receiving life and energy from you, okay? Now, I know that I said we're going to get spiritual, so please stay with me here. I want us all to be on the same page. When I say that this man is receiving life and energy from you, what I'm referring to is as you give yourself to a man that you're sleeping with, and you give a piece of your soul, and you give a little piece of your spirit, things start to change rapidly in one very short moment. See, as you give yourself to him and he begins to now have you as something that he's conquered, he now has what we can call a little bit of power, right? He's received energy and life from you. There is life existing in your womb, and there's also life existing in your spirit. And so now that he has had you in this intimate space, and he's had you the most vulnerable that you will ever be of all time, there is a lot of power that comes with this. And just like they say in Spider-Man, right, with great power comes great responsibility. So as he now is gaining a lot of power in this dynamic and in this relationship, there then becomes a choice. See, as you give him something, I know that you're receiving from him and you're opening your heart, but you're also giving him what we describe as your gift of life, your gift of energy, and a little piece of you. He now gets to decide, what is he going to do with that gift? Is he going to receive that gift from you and cherish it, take care of it, nurture you, grow with you, protect you, provide for you? Or is he going to take that gift and disregard of it, or throw it in the trash, or not care about you, or neglect you, or ignore you, or ghost you? And see, this is a very important thing to understand. See, you also need to take into consideration this such important aspect to the experience. You have something to give him that he desires, okay? I know it's a lot of writing on the board today, but don't you worry, okay? We're getting somewhere. He wants something from you that he actually is forced to go on the hunt for and take action in order to get. He feels an innate, and this is where I kind of want to tie this in with nature and help you understand how the men are receiving this or thinking about this, or their perception versus yours. In their experience, right, they have an innate desire to hunt for this gift that you have in your already existing possession. And their desire to get that gift from you is what pushes and motivates them to use tactics, to use smooth talking, to use lies in some cases, to use manipulation, to try and get this gift from you. I'm gonna like circle it so you don't forget it here, right? This gift is so important because what you have to understand is you're already walking around with this gift inside your womb and inside this region, right? It already exists inside you. You were born with it. But you have to understand it is something that the men desire, that they want from you. But remember, like I said, right, you're opening your heart, you're opening your soul to a man and giving him this gift. So if you're giving someone a gift, let's even kind of take this away from the spiritual sense so I can reconnect with a lot of you and gain some understanding in terms of what we're talking about here. If we're talking about gift in a literal sense, tell me in the chat, are you going to plan to give a gift to someone you don't know? Or are you going to structure your life where you're giving gifts or planning gifts for people who are important to you in your life? Tell me, would you be more likely to give a gift to a stranger or give a gift to someone who is important to you? Tell me in the chat. I want to make sure we're all paying attention and I want to make sure we're all on the same page. All right? Because this is a very important concept to understand. Right? Are you going to be giving gifts to strangers that you don't know, don't care about, and you've never met? Or are you going to be giving gifts to people in your life? I'm talking about in the general sense that are important to you. Okay? I see a lot of people saying someone important, not the stranger. Okay? I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So if you think to yourself, if I have a gift in my possession in a just more general sense, I'm only going to be planning to give a gift to someone I care about. Why would I be giving gifts to people I don't care about and I don't know and are strangers to me? And we're acknowledging that in this scenario, when we're talking about the spiritual realm, that you have a gift already existing within you that the men desire to take and to conquer. Then you have an understanding in the same sense that I can't be giving that gift away to any guy that I come across. In fact, it's quite the contrary. Because I have something so important existing within me, I have to be very, very, very careful that I only give this gift away to someone who shows me that they're worthy of that level of investment. Okay? And the reason I kind of want to do this for you is because this will drastically change the way that you view the process of what's happening here. And I want to kind of undo a lot of what you have been thinking about when it comes to sex before. Because I know that a lot of you have started to develop a mind state in which I desperately want to get and keep a man. And so your mind is always rolling in a place where you're thinking about how you can do more things to get and keep a man. Your sole focus becomes how can I adjust myself to get and keep a man. And so as soon as you meet a guy, you're automatically approaching the relationship from the standpoint that I need to do something for him in order to prove myself to him. The problem is with that, you forget totally that you have something in your already existing possession that he actually wants from you. And you forget the second point that I'm going to get to, which is super important, because this aspect is going to determine who really has the power here from the very beginning. Because if you don't understand the power that you possessed in the gift that you already have in your possession, then you don't understand how to properly go about your relationships with an understanding of who really is in control here, who really is setting the standards and the expectations here. Because if you convince yourself that it's the men who are dictating how things will go or how they won't go, then you'll always be in a constant state of anxiety trying to feel the need to prove yourself to men. And subsequently, you'll be giving away that gift that was supposed to be something that the men are working for. You'll be giving it away to strangers for absolutely nothing. Okay? Because no matter how much the guys want to talk about, I'm this pill and I'm that pill and I'm so evolved and I'm so different and I'm so much better than all the other men in their existence, at the end of the day, when they all finish making all their money and beating their chest and high-fiving each other, they all want to be around soft, feminine women. Why? Because no matter how masculine and manly the men, no matter how much they can scream and shout, they don't want to spend their entire life around nasty, dirty, stinky men. They want to be with, when it comes to enjoying their life and spending the rest of their life with someone, they want to be with soft, gentle, feminine women. Never forget that, okay? Let's hop into point number 2, okay? Today's show, I'm sure you're probably seeing here, is going to be a little bit more spiritual, but that's because sex is such a spiritual experience, all right? Let's hop into our point number 2. I have so much writing here. I'm really getting an arm workout of this erasing. Okay? I hope that makes sense to all of you so far. And now we're going to get really into the nitty-gritty after I've explained to you the two different types of experience that is happening during the act of sex. All right, let's hop into this point here that I'm so glad we get to talk about this. Okay, so glad. Now, this is one of my, I guess we can say, favorite parts of this discussion, because I think that it'll really help you in your life here. So, remember how we talked earlier about the act of, you sleeping with a man, and how you have something that he wants. And in the process of him seeking that and exploring that and hunting for that, you then in turn, with an understanding of your gift, you recognize who's really in control here. Now, I want to talk to you about a concept that I hope will stay with you forever. See, like I always say, relationships and love is like war. What I mean by that is whenever you're going out into this dating world, I don't want you to be so naive that you think every man you ever meet is going to be the love of your life or your Prince Charming. Why? Because I know that the men aren't going out in their dating life thinking that for themselves. And so you'll get used a lot if you don't consider this. And what I want you to start thinking about is this. Remember, you have a gift. And if we translate what that gift is in a more simpler sense, that the men are looking for and they desire from you, right? They desire what's in your womb, what's in your being, what's in between your legs. So they desire sex from you. Now, what you desire from them is also, right, in a sense, we can talk about it in a more broad sense. Of course, you want a man to commit, to protect and provide. But in a more broader sense, right, you want commitment from a man. And that is something that you desire. So there's a constant, what we can call and think about as a negotiation going on. All right, let me even draw this bigger because I want to make sure we get to, everyone can see this in the chat, in the Chizat. Okay, I'm gonna make sure to draw this a little bit bigger for everyone in the chat here. Now, the reason that I want us to discuss this is because I think it's such an important understanding of the dynamics that are going on in each and every relationship that you will begin to build with men. What do I mean by this? See, when you start off a relationship, remember, he is looking for sex, but he has not yet received it, right? It has not yet happened. And in return, what you're looking for, if you're going to give a man sex, you're looking for some sort of commitment that he will be on a regular, ongoing basis, protect and provide for you. That comes in the form of being able to financially be responsible for you, take care of you and the children that you will eventually give him, and protect you in danger, just in life and in general. Okay, right? There's an exchange here. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing. But what I want you to understand in this exchange is that if you meet a guy from the very start, you have to understand that the dynamic and the leverage, the negotiating power is the heaviest in your favor when we start a relationship from the very beginning. So those of you who are still in your dating phase, what I want you to really take into account is that you should actually be your happiest in realizing that your life is at its best, or your ability to have a good relationship is at its highest at the beginning of the relationship, because that's when you have all the bargaining power. That's why I drew what's essentially like a seesaw here, and the sex is outweighing the commitment here, because your leveraging power is so heavy in your favor at the beginning that you might not even realize that you're walking around with all of this negotiating power when you meet men. See, when you want things and you need things and you want to ask for things and you're searching for answers, you can use this negotiating power to get those answers. But here's the best part. Please pay attention to this. Here's the best part. It's absolutely so amazing. Please, please, I beg you. If you're sitting on the toilet, stop pooping. If you're laying in bed with your hands in your pants, take your hands out of your pants. This is the best part, okay? The best part about this is as you use sex as your bargaining tool and your leverage power, you don't even have to end up giving the man sex in the end. That is the craziest part about this amount of leverage that you don't even realize that you have. All the time that you spend building up to this process where the men want to sleep with you, all the experiences you'll have with him, all the learning that you'll do, and we're going to talk about learning in a little bit, right? All the questions that you're going to ask, which you should be asking. If you join my show, you know how important it is to ask questions. All the observations that you'll make, all the analyzing that you'll do, right? In order to properly decipher, what does he actually mean? What is he saying? What does he actually want here? What are his true intentions? Who's the actual person that he is, not the fake person he's showing me? All of this that you will do while you have all of the negotiating power and all of the leverage, you can experience all of that and then come to the realization that you say, this is not a man that's even going to offer me commitment. Or his version of commitment or being committed to me is not what I'm looking for, right? And so I'm not even going to exchange my leveraging power, which is sex, to him, knowing that what I'll receive in return is not even the answer that I'm looking for, not the dynamic that I'm looking for, not the person that I'm looking for. And see, the craziest thing about this is that men will give you a lot and do a lot for you in this beginning stage while you have all of the leverage. So what I want to kind of reshape your mind around is stop thinking about sex as something that you need to give to men in order to keep them interested. It will never, never, ever work like that. Okay? I'm talking to you as if you're my daughter. Okay? It will never work like that. You will never keep a man interested in you by giving him sex. And you're also not going to magically, bring his interest up in you from the floor up to the ceiling just because you give him sex. It does not work like that. What I want you to do is spend as much time as you possibly can with your leveraging power, right? And your negotiating power, your bargaining power, to understand who this guy is, understand what he's about, and understand that if you do give up your bargaining power, which is sex, and I'm specifically talking about sex for the first time, if you do end up giving up that bargaining power, are you even going to receive anything that you actually want in return? And if the answer to that question eventually becomes no, then you don't even bother giving up your bargaining power. Okay, right? And I know that this concept might sound simple in itself, but that is something that's easily forgotten when your focus is all on how can I do something to get a man and to keep a man. And your focus is on how can I get a man to choose and pick me, right? Like we talk about with the pick-me-shas. Once your mind state is on how can I get a man to choose and pick me, your mind is completely out of a state of realizing all of your leveraging power. And what you'll do, instead of keeping your leveraging power to understand him better and get answers, you'll give away the leveraging power on like the very first night. And then you'll be trying to reverse everything that you've been doing because you'll be like, Tomisin, I have no control. I have no power. I have no say. There's no boundaries. I don't know what to do. And the problem with that is at this point, when you've given all of your leveraging power away in the first night, you've literally put all of the control in his hands. Okay? And at that point, the choice is really his in what he wants to do with all of that negotiating power. Because now he has never given you any commitment and you've given away your most powerful bargaining tool. I know I make it sound like such a transaction when I say it like this, but you have to understand in an energetical way, is that even a word, energetical? In a spiritual way, there is a transaction being had here. Okay, I know it doesn't sound super romantic, but I want you to come to that realization so that when you're approaching your relationships and your dating stages and your talking stages, you can actually see it for what it is. Because your ability to walk away at the beginning before you give away this bargaining power is everything that you want to hold on to as long as humanly possible. Because now when you're able to hold on to this, that, hey, if you don't show up for me how I expect, I'm just going to, I'm just going to walk away. I'll just go somewhere else. Not like I owe you anything or have given you anything that I care about. And then you'll have men ready to make adjustments for you or ready to make a change for you because of how much bargaining power you have. And in the process of that, you can constantly be analyzing, I don't know if you're doing enough for me. I don't know if you're the person that I'm looking for. I don't know if this is the vibe that I really actually want. Okay? But then in that scenario, you can be the one in control rather than being thrown out of whack, constantly feeling like you're trying to get him to see you or prove something to him. Does that make sense to you all so very far? Okay? I want to really reshape your mindset and your mind frame towards these things because it'll put you also in a much less anxious state when you're dating men, because you won't feel like there's some sort of clock that eventually he's going to run away from you and you're going to lose everything, right? There is no loss here when you keep your bargaining power and you keep your leverage. In fact, if anyone is taking a loss in that scenario, it's the guy for investing his time and energy into you and receiving absolutely nothing in return. All right, let's hop into our point number 3. Okay, now I'll warn you, some of you aren't going to like my point number 3 here. I'll just be super real with you because I have to, in order for all of this to work properly. Okay, so remember how I talked to you at the beginning of the show in our point number 1 about how men are conquering and you're receiving. Let's draw you out here, okay? Make sure my marker is nice and dark. As we draw you out in this scenario, we're going to make some slight adjustments to you. See, we'll draw you like this. You've got some devious activity going on here today. So, remember how I talked to you about the fact that you as a woman, this is you, are supposed to be someone who is receiving. That's the natural experience that you'll have in sleeping with men. Why did I draw my cue like that? That was such a weird way to draw the cue. I'm glitching. Okay. All right. Here's the thing. This will happen to some of you, and I know it's happened to some of you because I've seen it. Some of you will start to develop a feeling of jealousy and envy that the men get to do whatever they want. They get to sleep with 3, 4 girls at once and feel nothing. They go out, they have one-night stands, then they go out the next day like nothing has ever happened. They're like almost like a version of a sociopath. That it's like they can just shut off their feelings and emotions and turn them on at a whim. It's like a light switch. And you start to see this from men and experience this with men. How could he do that to me? How could he just go behind my back? How can I, when I care about this and he doesn't give a damn? And you start to become jealous that he's able to just control his emotions like a sociopath. Then something very scary happens. And this is what I want to address as it relates to sex. And I want you to be looking out for whether it's happened to you or whether it's something that you may be thinking about or eventually come to this place in your life. You might come to a place in your life where you start thinking, if I can't, beat these men, maybe I'll just do the same thing as them and join them. You know the saying, if you can't beat them, join them. So you start to think to yourself, the best thing for me to do as a woman is to do like the man. And I will sleep with whoever. Right? I'll sleep with whoever I want, whenever I want, however I want. And I will, this is what you'll convince yourself of, take my power back, right? Because you've convinced yourself that you can be more like the men by just changing your mindset into dealing with things and approaching things like the men, right? And someone even said it in the chat here. Coco says it, right? You'll say, I'll just turn off my silly emotions. Because you're like, if the men can do it, right? They're just silly men. I can do it too. In fact, I can play their game one up. Because as I'm sleeping with whoever I want, whenever I want, because I'm in power to do that, they'll be thinking, oh, I'm like one of these other girls and they tricked me and they got something from me. But what they won't realize is I actually wanted to do that I'm the one in control of my body, my soul, and my spirit. And I'm the one that went and got them and slept with them for my own pleasure and my own enjoyment. Ha, 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 ha. I'm like an evil villain. Nobody knows my tricks. This is a trap. It's one of the biggest traps that you'll make, okay? And I want to discuss this because actually both men and women are aiding you in falling in this trap. Because you want to know what actually comes with this when you try to realign your state of mind and your regular nature from being a feminine woman to trying to make it more like a masculine man, you end up traumatized. You end up traumatized because you're trying to do like a man does. You're trying to approach sex and the experience of sex like a man does. You are not a man. That's not a bad thing, though. It's actually a great thing. You're a woman with your own experiences, your own thoughts, your own way of thinking, your own way of receiving and giving love. You are meant to be different from men. When you see them go about their lives, I'm not saying that it's not wrong for them to do this or that. But when you see them going about their lives a particular way, I don't want you to be envious of their nature. I don't want you to be envious of their approach. And I definitely don't want you changing your approach to be more like men, because you'll only end up being disappointed and traumatized by your own doing. Because as you think you're taking power back by sleeping with men for nothing, you will only down the line realize that they're actually the ones that tricked you out of taking something from you that is a gift. Remember, it's still a gift. Whether you think that you're taking power back or not, it's still a gift. And when you give it to men for nothing and you convince yourself that you're giving it away for nothing because you're empowered to do that, it still makes you feel poopy to realize that someone who you allowed inside you, who's seen you so vulnerable, who got the most vulnerable version of your soul, your spirit, and your being, is someone that doesn't care about you, doesn't remember your name, doesn't maybe even remember sleeping with you because they were so pissed drunk. Or maybe you see them out at the club or the bar or the whatever, and when you come up to them, they pretend like they don't know you. That doesn't feel good. But the problem when you operate under this mindset, the major problem with that is in the process of you feeling things, feeling disappointment, feeling sadness, feeling the trauma, feeling upset at the way that the men that you gave yourself to are now treating you, you will convince yourself that nothing is wrong. And you'll try to, oh, I'm fine. It's whatever. I'm not even upset. It's not even a big, I'm just like the guys. I don't give a damn at all. Like whatever. Like he pretends like he doesn't know me anymore. Whatever. He's talking to a new girl and he's taking her out. It's whatever. Like, doesn't this guy know? Like, it's not that deep. Like, why does everyone think stuff's that deep? It's really not that deep. And this is the problem. Now you're not even giving yourself a license to work through your emotions anymore. Because you're convincing yourself that you don't have emotions, and you're convincing yourself that you don't feel things, and you're convincing yourself that your natural feminine nature, right, in feeling the intense feeling of energy into you when you're sleeping with a man, and when he is actually conquering you or taking something from you, and that spiritual experience that you feel, you're convincing yourself that it's not happening. And then the feelings that you'll feel afterwards, which are natural to you as a woman, you're convincing yourself that you shouldn't feel those things. So now you're frustrated, you're emotional, but you're not even allowing yourself the space to be frustrated or emotional. And then you're continuing to do the thing that is traumatizing you while convincing yourself that it's not traumatizing you, while simultaneously continuing to traumatize yourself. So do you see how that can quite quickly spiral you out of control and out of whack, okay? Into a very, very dark place. I'm not saying you don't sleep with people that you want to sleep with, but what I want you to understand is you're a woman, and your nature and your experience in sleeping with men is going to be different from men. Doesn't make you a bad person, it just makes you a woman. Doesn't even make the men bad people. And I want you to accept that and understand that, okay, the happiest version of myself is someone that when I do sleep with a man, when I do be that vulnerable and open with a man, I feel safe in doing that. And after I sleep with him, I feel like that same man loves me, cares for me, cherishes me, wants to take care of me, protect and provides for me, right? And I'm not questioning that in my head. I don't feel worried about what's to come. I don't feel like maybe one day he might just wake up and leave me. I also don't feel concerned about my place in his life or in his heart. I also don't feel like I'm using this as a way to keep him in my life. Okay? You cannot understate, or I cannot understate how important it is for you to feel secure after you sleep with him, right? More than anything else. Because that aftercare, as we can say, right? Those of you who are into BDSM know what I'm talking about. Those of you that understand the term aftercare know what I mean. It's important to feel safe with your partner. And for you as a woman, it is hyper important that the person that you're being this vulnerable with, that you're giving this gift to, you feel is actually deserving of it. And when they have all of this power, because remember, we talked about negotiating power in our previous point. When they have all of this power now and all of this control, and you now no longer have your bargaining power or leverage in this relationship, you want to ensure that the man that you gave all of this bargaining power to is now going to be able to take all of that power and be responsible with it by caring for you, by continuing to take care of you, by continuing to be consistent with you. Not just going to take all of that power and all of that responsibility now that he has with that power and be like, it's whatever. I'll do whatever I want or feel like with it. Okay? Right? And the reason I say this is because nature is such an important part for you to understand for you as a woman. I'm not here to tell you what you should or shouldn't do, but I've seen it plenty and plenty of times. Every time you try to be more like a man in your approach, in your way of thinking, in your mindset, it's not going to click for you. You might think it's working for you for a little bit, but you're always going to revert to your natural, already existing nature. Okay? That's just the reality of life. It's going to be very difficult for you to operate in a different energetical space. That's why I said today's show is going to feel very spiritual, because there's a very spiritual aspect to sex in relationships. Okay? Let's hop into our number 4 point. I hope that that made sense to you all, okay? Because I think that that's very, very important to understand. And it's okay. We all have feelings and emotions. Let's go into point 4. Now, we're gonna hop into our point number 4. Things will take a turn very soon, and right after this point, things are going to take a 180-degree turn, but we'll get there, okay? So learning is such a big part of men, and I'll explain why here. So when you start off, this is going to sound a little bit weird. Remember, I told you, at the beginning of your relationship with a guy, before you actually sleep with him, that is when you have the most leverage. That is when you have the most bargaining power. You want to make sure, you want to make sure that in the process of you having all of your leverage at the beginning, that you utilize that to your advantage to gather as much information as you can so that you can make the most educated decision that you possibly can in this scenario and in this situation, okay? What you're gonna find though, if you're doing this correctly and you're holding on to your leveraging power, is that unfortunately, the things that you learn about a guy at the very beginning, we'll just say it, they don't necessarily always align with the things that you're going to learn after, the fact. And when I say after the fact, I just mean over the course of time. So what I want you to understand when it comes to learning and understanding men is there are like two books. And when I say two books, I mean a book, a version of a book that you're going to read on a guy about his life, about who he is, about what he wants, about his intentions, right? What he's looking for, all that good stuff. That is going to be essentially like the fake book. Okay? You're going to learn that, you're going to study that. But what I want you to understand is as you keep your leverage, you're going to eventually get to reading this real book. When I say this real book, I mean you're going to get to eventually learning this real version of him. The one that isn't what he told you, it's the version of him that he showed you. Okay, so I'll even put that here so that we can all be on the same page, right? In this fake book, it's what he told you about himself. And in this real book, it's what he showed you. Right? So what I want you to understand is the learning process is such a pivotal part, one, to having good sex, which we're actually going to discuss here in the later points. But it's also a very pivotal part to understanding everything that's supposed to be happening in terms of your evaluation process leading up to sex. Because remember, you possess a gift. You possess a gift that men want. They're in hunt for. And remember, just like with any other gift, you're not going to give it away to strangers. That wouldn't make any sense. It's a gift, right? It's important, right? It's valuable, right? So you're evaluating the people around you, the people that are coming close to you, the people that want this gift. You're evaluating who they are, what they're about, how serious they are about those things, and whether they're actually going to be able to act on the things that they say they're about, or whether it's all just talk. So the learning phase is such an important part of sex. You're learning who he is. You're learning how he is, what his approach is to life, what his approach is to relationships. And I never want you to forget something very important, okay? And this is going to kind of lead us into our transition to the darker side of sex here. What I want you to understand about sex, okay? And I'm talking to you as a daughter, but this is a very important part to understand. Sex and your platonic or let's say non-sexual relationship will mirror each other. I'm going to say that one more time because some of you that don't get it, it'll be kind of hard to grasp. Sex in a sexual sense and a non-sexual sense, right? So when I say your relationship, the non-sexual parts of your relationship, they will mirror each other. Let me give you an example of what I mean by that. A guy who is willing to give you pleasure and likes to see you happy, right? Let's say in a sexual sense, right? He's a really giving guy. He likes to, we're going to be graphic here for those of you who are on the younger side, shouldn't be watching the show. But a guy who likes to, let's say, eat you out. He gets a lot of enjoyment from eating you out, making you climax, putting his fingers in you, getting you all worked up, making you feel good, doing all the things that you like, okay? He's a really big giver. You get to ride on his face, all of that good stuff. See, a guy with that mind state is the same type of guy, see, when we extrapolate that and then we mirror it in a non-sexual sense, is the same type of guy who will be thinking, how do I make my partner happy? In a non-sexual sense. How do I take care of my woman and make sure that her needs are met in our relationship? Because her happiness is also important to me. Vice versa, okay, and some of you might realize this in your own experiences, the guys who are very selfish with sex in the sense that they're only thinking about their own pleasure. When I say jackrabbit himself inside of you for 90 seconds or less, those are the type of guys who I'm talking about. They don't warm you up. They don't do any foreplay. They're just take your clothes off, stick it in you like that, 90 seconds and gone. You can't even, you're like, you blinked a couple of times and you're like, it's already over? I didn't even realize when we started. You didn't get a chance to warm yourself up. He just treated you like a microwave, like we talk about, right? And this is the thing. Those same men that do sex like this, you can actually extrapolate that. And I guarantee you, in a non-sexual sense, he goes about your relationship the same way. So part of learning someone's personality is also learning about what your experience is going to be with them during sex. So this is actually kind of like a version of the fake book and the real book. Because as you're learning this fake book, guys will talk about anything when it comes to sex. And you might start thinking, oh, he's this type of person, he's that type of person. But only once you discover the real book will you start seeing the real sides of him in a non-sexual sense. And then also at that time is when you'll start experiencing the real sides of him in a sexual sense as well. And they will mirror each other. So part of your learning and understanding of a man is understanding how the sex will mirror the non-sexual and vice versa, how the non-sexual will also mirror the sex. So be very cognizant of that when you're taking information in and you're meeting the men that you're dating or you're planning on dating, because they will mirror each other. Don't assume you're going to have a great sex life with someone who shows themselves non-sexually to be a very selfish type of person, a very me-oriented type of person. Vice versa, be understanding that your best, most pleasurable sex experience will be someone who takes an interest in you and understanding and learning you. So just keep that in mind when you're going out into your life and you're dating men and you're considering the type of men that you even want to give this gift to. Okay? Now, I told you this was going to be kind of our transition into the darker side, all right? I'm not going to make it too graphic, but I will say, please, those of you who are under 20 years old, I don't want to be responsible for what I'm sharing with all of you, because they're going to say, hey, why is someone teaching this type of stuff on TikTok? This ain't TikTok appropriate. So we might have to use code words and things like that to discuss this. But hopefully anyone under 20 years old, I wish I could put a restriction, is gone from the chat, all right? On both chats, all right? So, because this is really, really important. Now that we've talked about the gift that is present. You guys gone? They gone? Chat, tell me. You see anyone that looks like they're under 20 years old in the chat? We got to kick them, do something, okay? This is a very interesting part about sex that I want to explore with you. Okay. I'm going to draw you a visual. The reason I'm drawing you this visual is because I want you to understand how this works in a more literal sense so you can connect the dots here. Let's imagine okay, stay with me, stay with me, stay with me. We're going somewhere very special, and I want you to really grasp this. Okay, so this is a man here. I hope you can tell. That's you here. Your enjoyment should be part of your focus when it comes to sex, right? Assuming you've done the part of doing your due diligence, learning and understanding the man that you're dating, so that you're not just giving away your leverage to men for nothing. Here's another part that I want to discuss with you. I know you're my daughter, but we're going to get into the nitty-gritty here. Your enjoyment and satisfaction is very important in this process, because if you don't factor in the fact that you're supposed to enjoy this process, you'll be very miserable and you won't be approaching it the right way. So what am I actually referring to when I say enjoyment? I drew something out that I want to discuss with you so that we're all on the same page. Let's imagine that you want to pass a note to a man. And let's say you're in class with this guy and you want to communicate something to him through this note. Let's just say, for example, you're saying, hey, I just want to let you know that tonight there is a party in Peter Hall, okay? Peter Hall's having a party at 12 a.m. tonight, midnight tonight. Be there or be square. Whatever. That's the note that you want to pass. What I want you to understand, though, and I know it's kind of a funny scenario, in order for you to properly communicate this note to that man, you have to understand, right, what it is you have to understand what it is you're trying to say in that note in order to pass it to him That way he receives it and he understands what that note means and he understands how to take action on that note. So in the example that I gave you where you're giving a guy a note because you want to let him know about a party that's happening in Peter Hall tonight. You have to understand where Peter Hall is. You have to understand timing. You have to understand communication and the English language in order to write that note up, give it to him, that he can then say, oh, okay, party tonight, Peter Hall, I'll be there tonight, I'll bring my friends, da 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 da. Okay? Now, this might sound very trivial and you're thinking, Tomisin, what does that have to do with enjoyment? I'll tell you what. In order for you to properly communicate to men what pleasure actually is for you, you also have to do some exploring of yourself. Now, I know in this scenario, you're supposed to be my daughter, but like I said, we're going to get graphic. You need to understand, because sex is such an important part of your life and will be such an important part of your romantic relationships, you will suffer. Listen to me. You will suffer in your relationships if you don't understand what enjoyment is for you or what pleasure is for you. Because similar to passing someone a note and communicating something to them through that note, you will not be able to communicate to men what you need and what you want and what is pleasurable for you if you don't even understand what enjoyment is to you. This sounds very trivial, but this can be or can make the experience of sex very, very horrible if you're not careful. Because if you're not focused on understanding what enjoyment is to you, then sex will only and solely become the process of giving this man enjoyment. And you will never ever see it as an experience where you're supposed to enjoy this or like this or find this pleasurable. And some of you might be thinking, well, Tomisin, I like giving my man pleasure. That doesn't bother me. That makes me feel good. But you're also supposed to feel good. And that's the realization that I want you to come to, that the experience is not solely meant to be an experience that only gives a man pleasure. But part of the way you will struggle is if you don't understand how to communicate your own pleasure. So in order for you to know how to communicate your own pleasure, you're going to have to do some experimenting with your own body. Okay? Not going to get too graphic. You're going to have to touch yourself. You're going to have to explore yourself. You might have to try some things. You might have to talk about some things. You might have to talk to some girlfriends about their own experiences. You might have to open up to some girlfriends of yours just in general and try and explore and see some of the things that you find pleasurable. I know that's a little bit, oh my God, some of you are like, oh my God, that's not very woman-like. I would never do that. Why would I be doing that? But you have to understand this is an important part of your life. And if you don't make sure that you do some experimenting and exploring to understand what pleasure really is to you, and don't think that experimenting has to be just sleeping with multiple men. Experimenting can be experimenting with yourself and what you like, and also talking with your other girlfriends and hearing some of their experiences to kind of think to yourself, oh, I find that interesting, right? You have to kind of get open and comfortable with talking to some people, not every guy that you meet, right? To some people who are close to you about the experience of sex, especially other women, because they can also share with you their own experiences. You can learn from that, and they can start showing you some things as well without you necessarily having to sleep with a bunch of men. The reason I say this is because when you understand what pleasure is to you, you can then communicate that to men. And when you can communicate that to men, you can have a happier sex life as well, which I want for you. Okay? Because I can assure you, okay? I know how men are. For some, we're going to have a real conversation, okay? I hope you're all mature. I'm going to be so for real with you. Majority of men, they don't know where the clit is. I'm sorry to disappoint you, okay? They don't really understand your anatomy. They don't understand what pressure to use. They don't understand what's sensitive and what's not. They don't really understand how to give you pleasure. Okay? I'll just be super real with you. But despite that, you can aid yourself in getting pleasure if you understand how to communicate your pleasure. Because there will be men that just simply don't understand what pleasure is to you, but they can learn what pleasure is to you when you show them what pleasure is to you or teach them. There will also be some men that they're just not interested in your pleasure, but make no mistake about it, there are plenty of men that will be interested in your pleasure, they just don't know how to go about that, okay? Not every man that you meet is going to be an expert or a sexologist. It's just not going to work like that. So some men need some guiding and some understanding so that they can actually do what you like as well. And there should be an effort on both sides that everyone should be enjoying this process. The problem is if you get too uncomfortable communicating your pleasure or communicating that you're not having pleasure, this will be a very painful process because you'll always be in a state of dissatisfaction while not communicating that and not trying to show him that you're dissatisfied. Okay? I'm going to give you a little bit of a pro tip here. Please, never, ever, 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 are you listening to me? Never fake an orgasm. I'm going to say it one more time. Okay? We're in the adult show here. Never fake an orgasm. It serves you no purpose. It serves you no purpose. You're actually making your sex life actively worse every time you fake an orgasm. I'm telling you this as a man, and I talk to other men. I'll talk to the man and then I'll talk to his woman. These men are associating every time you fake an orgasm with the fact that this is what you're enjoying, you're having pleasure, and you're feeling good. They leave the situation thinking they did something, they think they beat it up. Meanwhile, you're getting out your Tracy's dog vibrator or you're getting out your rose and you're rubbing one out after he leaves. That is so you can't live like that. You can't live like that. Because remember, like I talked in this note, in terms of communication, you can't have men thinking that you're enjoying something that you're not actually enjoying. Because you're not doing something for his ego or his pleasure by faking an orgasm. You're making it worse because you're making the disconnect between you two wider and wider and wider. To the point where you now feel like you're ashamed of how much you've had to fake orgasms. So now you don't tell him that you've been faking orgasms for the past, 6 months, and you don't want to admit that to him. So you just keep faking more orgasms and you keep having this vicious cycle of disappointment and dissatisfaction in your romantic relationship. Until you have a coworker talking to you at work and he might call you a good girl and now you're soaked. And you're fantasizing about your coworker who called you a good girl because you're not getting satisfied the way that you're supposed to in the bedroom. Don't do it. It's a trap. It will veer you off the path of success, which I want for you as it relates to sex. And I really mean that. It's not a joke. Okay? So don't think that you're doing something for a man by faking your pleasure. Rather than fake your orgasm, I'd rather you just be honest that you didn't do it, or just not even fake it in general. And then after the fact, have a conversation with him that, hey, if you just do this a little bit better, I really enjoy this, but this wasn't really working for me, or whatever the case may be, right? Communication is such an important part of your enjoyment, all right? Now, we're gonna get to one more point here, because I have to, in the process of talking about sex and enjoyment and things like that, have to make one thing very, very, very clear, okay? Some of you freaks probably know what I'm about to get to, but maybe some of you don't. Maybe some of you are on too much freak time. You don't even know what comes next after this. What I want to kind of set straight with you. Okay. Number 6 is obviously boundaries. Okay. So what I want to happen for you, see, this is the path that can be very dangerous. If you don't make an effort of setting proper boundaries in the things that you're willing to do and not do when it comes to sex, you will find yourself in a very precarious situation, right? And what I mean by that is similar to how we discussed with enjoyment. Communicating your enjoyment, what actually is pleasurable to you, is super important to understanding how to get what you want and be happy in your sex life. Vice versa, communicating what your actual, genuine, real boundaries are is super important to having a good sex life and having, just good sex in general. Okay. Now, because I don't want see, the thing about boundaries is if you make the mistake of thinking that sex is all about a man's enjoyment, his pleasure, and what he wants, there will come a point where you start saying to yourself, I will just do anything to make him happy at my own expense and even against my own boundaries. Then at a certain point, what will happen over the course of time is sex will start to bring you shame because you'll be doing things that are either against, your boundaries, your morals, your values, or just what you want. And it'll start to make you feel very, very icky, okay? But the problem is if you start feeling shame, that shame is going to translate to avoidance. Okay, I'm getting deep in the weeds here. I really want to help you. That shame is going to translate to avoidance because if something on a regular basis makes you feel that negative emotion, you're not going to want to, on an ongoing basis, feel that negative emotion. So then you're going to try and avoid that situation that is leading to that negative emotion. But here's the problem. See, if you're in a relationship and in a romantic relationship with a guy, and every time the topic of sex comes up, you're trying to avoid it, this becomes a very, very slippery slope, right? Because, see, if you are always we'll put up here. If you're always in avoidance when it comes to the topic of sex or having sex with your man, right? Assuming he's your man. Now your man's going to become very unhappy, right? Not because you owe him anything, but now the shame that you feel is causing you to avoid this situation. You avoid any foreplay, you avoid any topics on it, you avoid getting close with it, and you're avoiding putting yourself in a position where this could even happen because of the shame that you feel on an ongoing situation. Now, when your man is unhappy, right? This equals a lot of, we'll say, a lot of emotional distance in the relationship, okay? And a lot of times this emotional distance, we can also describe here as ED, not that type of ED, but this type of ED will usually lead to some sort of breakup. It's just inevitable, right? And what I want for you is I want you to avoid this spiral, okay? This snowball effect, because I don't want you to begin associating sex with shame. The problem is if you don't be very clear about your enjoyment and then also your boundaries, you will start to associate sex with shame because it's becomes something that is not pleasurable for you and actually makes you feel horrible about yourself. And if we start to associate something that's supposed to make you feel connected, make you feel safe, make you feel loved with an emotion of shame, right? And disgust, all of that is going to lead to an eventual downfall of your relationship in a romantic sense, just in its entirety, sorry. And so what I want you to be very, very cognizant of when you're dating men and even when you begin sleeping with a guy is never, ever, ever adjust or change your boundaries just because you want to pleasure a man. Because it will put you in a very bad position down the line. Because as you say yes to things that you don't actually feel comfortable doing, right? And you're not actually open to doing, simply because you want to pleasure him, after a while, you will start to feel like you can't say anything. Because now, if you said that you wanted this thing or you were okay with this thing, you feel like, oh, I can't go back on my word now because he's already into it. He already enjoys it. He's already vibing with it. So now if I say something, I'm going to make it weird. He's going to realize I was lying. It's similar to the enjoyment, right? Where you start off faking a couple orgasms because you think you're just, letting him live and making him enjoy it more. But then after a while of faking a couple orgasms, you begin to start saying, well, I'll fake more. And I just won't tell him about the past 2 weeks I was faking them. So I'll just keep faking more. Then I won't tell him about the past 6 months until you get to a point where all you're doing is faking orgasms and you're never having a single one. Meanwhile, he's finishing having sex with you and he said, oh my God, you came like 6 times. That was great. That was crazy. I never seen you come. And you're thinking, yeah, came a whole 6 times for sure. Come on. We don't want that for you. Okay? So please be very clear and concise and communicative with your boundaries as well. If you don't feel comfortable with something, be communicative about that. Tell him that you don't feel comfortable with the thing. Don't be so focused on his enjoyment that you don't communicate how you really feel about things, okay? There's a difference between a boundary and, just being something that's a little outside your comfort zone, right? I'm not saying don't be open to trying new things. I'm not saying don't be adventurous or spontaneous, but if you get to a point where you genuinely feel uncomfortable doing something, you have to communicate that. If you don't, your relationship will suffer, all right? Okay. Does that make sense to all of you so far? Do you guys have any questions about we discussed 6 here. You guys have any questions about the 6 that we just discussed? I want to make sure I answer all questions. All right, let's hop into our super chats here. Oh boy. Oh wow. Okay, so in our super chats, I was wondering why you guys were saying super chat, super chat, super chat. I was so focused on the show. Thank you. Big round of applause to Kayla in our YouTube chat. She donated $100 in our YouTube chat. So let's all give a bit USD. Let's all give a big round of applause to Kayla in our YouTube chat. Wow, that is by far definitely the biggest donation that we've ever had in the Players Club show before. So thank you so much to Kayla. Thank you so much for that donation of $100. The big round of applause to Kayla, one of the most amazing students, and I appreciate that big, generous donation. I was such in the flow. I think you donated way early in the show too, when I was still at point number like 1. I was so in the flow. I was just like going. But thank you so much. Hope you're still in the chat to receive your thank you from, okay, I see you there. Thank you. I really appreciate you so much for that donation. Oh, you also sent in your super chat. You said, we thank you, Tommy. One investment I'm proud to make. Thank you. I appreciate you making that investment in me. I love investing in all of you and giving you and sharing you knowledge and spending this time with you, okay? Thank you so much. All right. Do you guys have any questions about what we discussed here as well? By the way, I want to tell you, for those of you, as you guys are asking your questions about today's show, if you have a question for me that is unrelated to today's show, or just, in a sense of trying to get an understanding of the guy you're dating or some perspective or advice, you can go over to the link in my bio on TikTok or the link in my description on YouTube. Click where it says private relationship advice. There, it's like a hotline where you can send in your question to me, all times of the day, type out your question, you submit it to me, and then I respond to you with a voice message, and it's usually like 8 to 10 minutes long, giving you advice on your situation, how you should go about it, my perspective, and things of that nature, okay? Heavenly says, recap, please. I have the perfect recap for you. All you got to do is go over to my YouTube channel, because those of you watching on TikTok right now, you go over to my YouTube channel, which is just my first name, Tomisin, and then you can go over to my YouTube, rewatch the show, because I'm live on YouTube at the same time as I'm live on TikTok, and then you'll be able to rewind the whole entire live stream. It'll also be saved there for you there, that you can watch all of the points that we discussed here, okay? That goes for all of you there. Sandy says, what happens when you've given the cookie? How do you regain your value? I actually have a show on how to take your power back. But what I'll warn you about that show that you'll learn, if you go on my YouTube, it's just titled, or just type in my name and type in how to take your power back. What you'll learn about that show and that process is, in the process of you taking your power back, you're gonna have to withdraw basically all your energy. And in the process of withdrawing all your energy, you're gonna come to a turning point where either that guy is just going to ignore you and not give you anything and basically say, if you're not going to talk to me, then I'm not going to talk to you, or he's going to realize that he's actually losing out on something by not having you in his life, in which case he'll reach out to you. But really and truthfully, you're probably going to be disappointed in the result when you try and take your power back after giving away your leverage, especially if you've given it away very soon. Okay, I'll just be super real with you. But if you want an option there, that is the option that you can take. Okay, thank you, Deb, also to becoming a member in our YouTube chat. Really appreciate that. Let me go back here because I did see a question that I wanted to answer. Blue says, who initiates the enjoyment preferences conversation? Does it not put us in our masculine if they do not ask about KINKSs? Well, so this is a conversation that I do want. This is a very delicate balance because I obviously don't want you to sleep with men for nothing, but I definitely want you in the times or days or weeks leading up to you finally sleeping with him. I do want you guys to have discussions about things that you're into, the intimacy side, what everyone likes and enjoys and finds pleasurable. It doesn't mean you have to do it, but it takes a very special kind of self-control. I can assure you, men don't have a problem broaching the topic of sex, okay? They're not going to shy away from that. But what I want you to take notice of is how a guy talks about sex as well. So it's not necessarily a bad thing if you bring up the topic. Let's do it in person though. Definitely not over text and not even over the phone. But if you broach that topic, rather than just talking about the aspect of sleeping with each other, what I want you to do is ask him questions about like his approach to it. You'll notice when you start asking good questions, you'll notice a difference between guys who their approach to sex is give me what I want. I do nothing for you. I just jackrabbit myself inside of you. And you'll notice the difference between that and guys who are like, I want to make sure that my woman is taken care of. Those are two different types of men and that you'll get two different types of experiences with. It also will tell you a lot about his mindset and approach to a relationship in general, as weird as it might sound. So take note of that and listen to that because that'll actually give you a lot of context to a relationship, okay? Right? And it won't be very hard to tell the difference. Nicole says my ex was very generous in the bedroom because that's what he and I liked, but very selfish outside of the bedroom. Just saying doesn't always equal care. That's fair. Maybe not in every scenario that a guy will be perfectly aligned with, hey, him being generous sexually is going to mean that he's not going to be, he's going to be generous in the relationship, right? That can not necessarily be true for every single man. But what I find is a lot of times there is a correlation, okay? Obviously, not everything is going to be perfectly aligned. There will be outliers. But for the most part, the men who are more generous in the bedroom, it usually translates to them actually caring about your happiness outside of the bedroom. And I find that the same is true most of the time, vice versa, okay? It might not be an every time thing, but it is something, a piece of information to take in as you're taking in a person and you're talking to a person, something to evaluate, okay? Prob's not in the first 3 to 4 dates anyways. Yeah, that's not something you even need to be worried about in the first 3 or 4 dates. You're feeling out the guy that you're talking to and you're feeling out the vibes, okay? Namesley says, damn, I love watching this and knowing I'm doing everything right. Proud of me. Thanks, T. I'm proud of you too. I'm proud of you doing right. Some of you might just watch to confirm you're on the right track, okay? And that's perfectly fine, right? Shirley says they fake it really good at the beginning. Well, here's the other thing too, right? When you're having a conversation with the guy, if you're trying to gauge whether or not he really is someone that takes pride in a woman's pleasure, you should ask him questions about how he goes about pleasuring a woman. So I don't want to get so graphic here, but you'll hear the difference between a guy who doesn't actually care about woman's pleasure, he's just saying that for the vibes, versus a guy who actually cares about a woman's pleasure. Because the things that he'll communicate to you about women's desires, what they want and what they need, you'll be like, oh, no, you get it. Someone has told you or taught you. Because there's no way you would even talk like that unless someone actually showed you that. For example, I'm just gonna give you guys a broad example. Don't read too deep into it. Let's say you ask a guy and you're like, hey, so yeah, you were talking about how you really like to give a girl pleasure. Like, what are some of the things that you think like are so important in terms of like giving a girl pleasure, just out of curiosity? And let's say a guy answers like this, right? His answer is, oh, one of the things that I've noticed is really important is a lot of times when, you're, let's say, going at a particular pace, at a particular stroke with a particular motion. And then she says right there, sometimes I'll get excited, or, guys will get excited and they'll go extra fast or extra hard. But they don't realize that when they're saying right there, they want you to do the exact same pace, the exact same motion, the exact same pressure. Don't change anything. Don't get overly excited. Just keep going exactly like that. And that was one of the things that I realized is super important to a woman's pleasure, is by making sure that you keep that pace, keep that pressure, and don't change it up just because she says she's about to, climax. There, when I talk about that like that, it's very obvious that I know what I'm talking about, right? I've experienced it, had a conversation about it, that I'm actually communicating it in a way where you're like, no, you learned that from a girl, must have told you that, and you actually took it into account and did that, right? Versus me just saying, oh yeah, I love giving a woman pleasure. Women, that's so important to just make sure you're doing it right. Sometimes you hit it from the back, you go slow sometimes, and you go fast sometimes. What does that actually mean? What does that have to do with the woman? You go slow sometimes. What does that mean, right? So when you get good at asking these questions, you'll also get better over the course of time at analyzing answers, if you know what I mean. Okay. Lecture Phil said, what did I walk in on? You walked in on something very interesting. Okay. So something just to take notice of when you're talking to guys, you'll hear in the difference between guys who know what they're talking about versus guys who don't know what they're talking about. LP Baby says, does our body know if a guy shouldn't even be inside of us as women? I personally think, because there's such a spiritual experience to sleeping with guys, I think that there's always going to be a part of you that either knows that this is supposed to be happening and feels it in your soul, and then subsequently your body, and also on the vice versa. And times where you might be sleeping with a guy and it just feels very wrong, not in a hot way, like it just feels like you're not supposed to be doing this, because it just feels like this energetically just doesn't match. So I always think that, because I'm someone that thinks it is that deep, so I always think that there's something to that when you start feeling that way. And vice versa, I always think that there's something to that when you feel really good about the experience that you're having with someone, okay? Miss Maya says, definitely, we are like teachers here questioning boys rather than trying to catch the ones that study. Yes, very true. And that's the thing too, is that when a guy, so in the example that I just gave you guys earlier, when a guy talks that way about a woman's pleasure, you can tell the difference between a guy who actually has taken so much interest in a woman's pleasure that he actually takes it serious, the process of learning what women like and what they want, versus a guy who doesn't really care that much about a woman's pleasure and has more of an assumption that he's pleasuring a woman based on what he might see in a corn video. Okay? A lot of times the guys who have the fake type of pleasure, they don't know what girls really want or find pleasurable, they'll talk about women's pleasure like it's in a corn video. They won't talk about it like you actually find pleasurable. So that becomes very obvious to you when you talk or ask enough questions to enough different types of men. You'll see the different responses that you'll get from guys. And the guys who talk about the experience like it's a corn video, it'll be very obvious they don't have any real understanding of like what women actually want or find pleasurable, in which case you probably gonna be pretty frustrated, okay? Bella says, what are the 5 signs of fake love from a man? Oh, that was Friday's show. So you got to go on my YouTube to find that show, because that show was from Friday. I know it's still up on my TikTok, but it was from Friday, okay? All right, chat. It is now time for our next segment, okay? Our next segment is our React segment, where I react to TikToks that you guys have sent to me, and then we have a discussion about them. So in order for us to get to our next segment, which is coming, we're going to hop right into this next part of our show here. Now, before we hop into our React segment, though, we're going to do a little bit of an intermission video because I have to clean up and, get my chair and my headphones ready for all of you. So spam up your headphone emojis, spam up your camcorder emojis. We're filming this in 4K. And while we have our intermission, we're going to be watching a video that comes from Stefan Speaks. Stefan Speaks is going to be talking about before dating him, that you should ask these 5 important questions. While he talks about that, I'm going to get ready for you guys in our React segment, and then I'll join you back in just a moment. So Mr. Stefan Speaks, please take it away. Please, for all of our beautiful people.
Now, some of you may be familiar with the book, The Five Love Languages. Some of you are not. We're not going to get into the whole breakdown of it. So we're going to make this simpler. Even if this man or you never heard of the love languages, the question is still, how do you like to be loved? Now, the love languages really speaks to how one gives and receives love, but I want you to focus on how they like to receive love. Because here's something a lot of people do not consider. When we understand that relationship love is about giving and pouring into each other, then we have to be able to understand if this is someone we can pour into. And too many people are more fixated on, can I receive from them what I want, but not really considering, can I give them what they're looking for? So by asking a man what his love language or how he likes to be loved, let me just say, for a lot of guys, they don't get asked that question, okay? They don't get asked like, what's important to you? What do you like? What do you enjoy? In that way that a woman's willing to actually embrace those things. So I think there's gonna be a lot of guys who would just be, if he's genuine and serious about dating you, he's gonna be happy to answer that question. But again, the key important thing here is for you to be listening, and it's hitting my spirit, so I have to say this. So the key is to listen, but you have to make sure that when you are in the dating phase, you got to be mindful of how you react to how he answers certain questions. All right? Because all you're going to do if you react poorly is make it harder for you to receive more information from this man. So let's just use an example. Let's say you ask a man, what's your love language? How you like to be loved? And let's just say this man says, well, I really love massages, and I think a woman who's going to be with me, she should be prepared and willing to give me massages every week. Massage my feet, my back, you name it, right? And your reaction is, oh, hell no, I ain't massaging your back, right? And here's the thing. Now, sometimes it can be done in a joking way and people can have a good laugh. But you got to be careful, because if you come across very negative or dismissive or attacking in any kind of way, well, then it makes him feel like, well, what's the point of me telling you what I want if that's how you're going to react to it, right? I might as well not bother.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stefan Speaks. Appreciate you. Let's hop into our first video of the day, I guess we could say, which comes from a creator named Ariana. Okay.
If he does any of these things, and I'm certified and qualified, so I know what the fuck I'm talking about. If that man has ever ghosted you, he literally hates you. He's literally showing you that he does not give a fuck to never talk to you again. And then on top of that, if he ever comes back to you, that's even worse. Girls love to be delusional, talking about he knows where home is, he always comes back. Newsflash, he's actually coming back to see if you're still dumb. If he drops you off at your house and literally drives off before you even get into the house, he hates you. Like, how does he know you didn't get kidnapped? Okay. If your man continuously walks ahead of you when you guys are going out on dates or just out in public, it almost looks like you guys aren't even together. He literally hates you. I'm not even talking about, oh, okay, this happened one time. If this is a consistent thing that he's doing to you, he does not respect you.
That's weird as hell. That's weird. I know, I've seen that happen. That's weird. That means he has, not when you just say hates you, that means he has no respect for you. And when we're extrapolating that as well, you also want to be thinking about, like, when part of a guy's responsibility in a relationship, protect, provide, right? So you don't want to be forcing men to protect or provide for you. You want to be gauging when you're with men, what is their desire to even protect or provide for me? Because if I have to, like, pull teeth to get that expression out of him or to get that energy from him, that means that he doesn't even have real interest in you, in which case you shouldn't even be bothering yourself in that case. That's a very good point, though.
Again, it's more of like a safety thing. Why would he want you to be meters behind him? He hates you.
Don't make any smart, intelligent man. Sorry, I'm pausing a lot, but smart, intelligent man, if he's not going to be holding your hand, then you walk in front of him so that he can see what's going on. If anyone trying to act shit, you can't have your girl walk. What if someone grabs your girl? What if someone grabs her her dump truck while she walking by, while you're walking forward looking like a doofus. Someone grabbing up your... Boy, I tell you, boy, could never be me.
If he's not changing for you, trust me, men will change for the women that they want, okay? They will not make her wait. If it's a constant thing of you're bringing up like, oh, you told me that you would change, you told me that you wouldn't treat me like this, and he continuously does it, you guys are always talking about it, he's purposely not changing, queen. If he downplays your success or always tries to humble you, he hates you. Maybe even jealous of you, and that's even worse. A man who loves you and respects you will never try to dim your light or try to feel the need to humble you because they don't feel threatened. If he always tries to ruin your big day, I'm talking about starting arguments when it's your birthday, when you have like an important job interview, trying to break up with you, times he's your personal op. Trust me, if a man's
She's funny.
nonchalant towards you, he just does not like you. Trust me, he's nonchalant to you, but to the girl of his dreams, he's not nonchalant. A nonchalant attitude is really just an excuse for him to show you how much he does not give a fuck about you. Relationships are supposed to add to your life, not make you stress out even more. Honestly, he should be making your life easier, so if you see that your life gets harder, more stressful, he hates you. Okay? He literally hates you if he never wants to get you flowers or never wants to like open doors for you, never wants to treat you like a princess. He hates you. It's like, oh, but that's like not real. Like that's so extra. Like he's trying to condition.
No, it's not. Here's the thing though. Some men become hyper obsessed with this mentality of like, oh, if you do something nice for a girl, that's simp behavior. And here's the thing. Like if you're going over and above and beyond for girls who are showing you no interest, then you're stupid, okay? As a guy, that's dumb. But doing something nice and considerate and caring for your woman that actually recognizes herself as your woman, goes out into the world and says, I'm his woman, that's not being a simp. And in fact, the idea that that makes you a simp is really stupid and illogical. And it's like men's way of self-sabotaging themselves away from having good women. Then they wonder why they only have the trash woman when they're not willing to take care of any. It's just so stupid. It's just like, it's your woman. You're supposed to take care of her. If you can't do that, then go be with sweaty, disgusting men. But they don't want sweaty, disgusting men. When they walk into the party and it's all sweaty, disgusting men beating their chest, they want to leave the party. They want all the feminine, nice, sweet, gentle women. But then when it comes to treating them well, they don't want to do that. They don't want to set the vibes for the women, but they want all the women to be there. I never understand it.
How to have the exclusivity conversation and how long is long enough to bring it up. So firstly, what's really important about setting up a solid foundation is when you first meet somebody, talk about intentions. What are you guys intentionally dating for? What are your needs, wants, and desires? And see how emotionally available and open this person is before you really start to get involved with them. But then let's say you guys have been dating. So there's no one blueprint that works. There's no timeline that it has to be done. But I always suggest anywhere between 8 to 15 dates. So if you're seeing each other once or twice a week, a nice little steady flow, it's growing over time, you're getting closer, you're starting to see like you're building more communication and there's more of a connection growing. The reason you have the exclusivity conversation is so that you can really just focus on each other and decide if this is a relationship that you actually want to have in the future. You don't have the exclusivity conversation to quell your anxiety or to make sure that that person's not dating anybody else out of jealousy and yada yada. And then how do you have the conversation? So you're going to reveal what it is that you want to them by coming with confidence, strength, and I statements. It's not about asking them what they want and then you determine your answer based around that. It's about telling this person, this is what I want. Do you either pick up what I'm putting down or do I walk off? And you do that by saying, hey, I've really enjoyed getting to know you. This has been really fun. I'm super excited about like what the future holds, but I want to be honest. I don't want to date anybody else and I'd love to delete the apps and just focus on you. Then leave space for them to let you know what it is that they're thinking. Are they on the same page as you? Are they not? Be fucking honest with each other. This is the time to have that dialogue. Through tough conversations and emotional availability is how connection is bred. Remember.
I love what she's saying because it's so mature and so grown, you know. I think that the way that I kind of advise you guys and teach is in an opposite sense of like, I understand that this is how things would work in a perfect world, but I also know that most men aren't going to respond in this positive and mature way that you are trying to set the environment for. So what I like to do in terms of getting your understanding of how men feel is I like to teach you how to be a little bit more subtle in extracting those answers. And I always advise you to let men take the first step, even if you know what you want, simply because I know that majority of the time, as soon as you put your cards on the table, most men are either going to attempt to just mirror you and your expectations and your intentions, or they're going to basically like gaslight you or tell you that, yeah, it's this and it's that, and you're not seeing it the right way, whatever the case may be. The reason I say that is because the men who really are just on the exact same page as you, for the most part, you'll know that through their actions, and you won't have to be in such a limbo and questioning things. I just say that because I'm a man, I just understand that there comes a point where men say, I want this, and then they begin doing actions in order to get that thing. So you'll notice a guy wants exclusivity because he'll start asking things of you. And then when your response is, I only do those things for my boyfriend. I only sleep with you could say, for example, I only sleep with my boyfriend. I only sleep over at my boyfriend's house. I only do this with a guy that I'm actually dating or whatever, this and that. Then he can start to think to himself, if I want more from this woman, and I don't feel like I'm getting enough access to her, seeing her enough times, spending enough time with her, and she's saying she only does these things with someone who's her boyfriend or with a different level of exclusivity, then I must ask her to be exclusive in order for me to get that level of access to her. So you kind of have to let guys and their desire to have more access to you be the thing that leads them in the right direction. That's just why I say, I know in a perfect world you could say this and it would work, but I just think that most men, they don't end up responding to this in the same mature, positive way, or they'll just mirror you and then you really won't know what they want.
You're not needy by expressing to somebody your needs. You are telling them very well, this is the boundary I'm setting. This is where I am. Either meet me here or I'm going to walk off. A creator I love made this comparison. The bus.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't. Guys, it doesn't work for guys with the ultimatum stuff. You will either feel so threatening to him that he'll just freeze up and he won't say anything, or he'll just kind of avoid. Like, guys they don't work like that. I hate to say it, I don't think that they work like that. I think that allowing men to come to you is always the best way to go about it, because he'll tell you whether he wants to commit to you or not through those actions, right?
Bus driver doesn't ask you where you're going. You get on the fucking bus and he tells you where you're going. You either stay on or you get off, depending on your route and what works for you. So start implementing that in your dating life. Once you've spent enough time with this person, start having these open and honest conversations so you guys can form.
The reason I say this is not because I think that Sabrina is wrong. I think that what she's saying is definitely correct. I also understand, though, that men are playing their own game. So when you tell men it's a take it or leave it situation, either we're exclusive or we're not, what do you think men who are looking to continue getting access to you will do? They'll agree with you and they'll repeat back to you exactly what you just said. Because remember, you laid your cards out. Guys who know how to emotionally manipulate, they'll tell you they want the exact same thing as you. Then they'll realize that this is the way to your heart. You'll start to feel like you can let your guard down because you guys are on the exact same page. But you don't get a chance to realize that he was able to say, hear what you want first, know exactly what you need, take that information in, mirror that back to you. Now, when you're thinking everything's all good, fine, and dandy, he gets to extract while your guard is down. Maybe you sleep with him, do some stuff with him. And then after the fact, he's like, you know how we were talking about a thing where me and you build exclusivity? I'm realizing some of the things that we're doing here just aren't working out for me. And then you're thinking in your mind, wait, why didn't you mention any of those things before we actually slept together? And he's not going to say it, but what he's thinking is, why would I? Why would I tell you how it's not working out for me before we actually sleep together? I just won't say anything and agree with you so that we can sleep together. Right? He's not going to say that, but that's how the guys are thinking. Why waste an opportunity by telling you what you don't want to hear when I'm so close to getting what I want from you? I know I make it sound like it's such a manipulation and everyone's playing games, but I'm a master at the manipulation stuff. So I'm trying to tell you how people they'll try and twist it on you. Being super mature, super open and honest, open in the floor is not always going to work for you in the dating world.
How should a guy bring up to a girl that he wants to be exclusive with her?
If you're in a situation where you want to be exclusive with a girl, that's awesome, right? First of all, you found a girl that you like. But from my experience, it's best just not to bring it up, because women tend to be more biologically programmed to want to lock the guy down. And generally, if you just wait, from my experience, she lets me know when she's ready.
Are we seeing other people?
What are we? me.
Yeah, what are we? Are we exclusive? She's gonna let you know when she's ready.
And that way you don't make the mistake of bringing it up when she hasn't gotten there yet in her mind, and then you push her away.
Exactly. How
makes
should a guy bring up?
That makes no sense. From your perspective, that makes no sense. If a guy's approaching you because he wants you and he wants to be with you and spend time with you, why would you be the one leading the exclusivity conversation? Let's replay this because maybe I didn't hear it.
Girl that he wants to be exclusive with her.
If you're in a situation where you want to be exclusive with a girl, that's awesome, right? First of all, you found a girl that you like. But from my experience, it's best just not.
That makes no sense. If you're a guy and you're in a situation where you want to be exclusive with a girl, then you push for exclusivity. You have to lead the conversation. I'm not going to be mean to this guy, but it just doesn't make any logical sense. What he's essentially saying is that the conversation of who's progressing the relationship should be the woman in this sense, which doesn't make logical sense. If the masculine energy is supposed to be the pursuer, right? We don't have to say it's chasing, it's not desperate. But if the masculine energy is supposed to be the pursuer, I know what I want, so I take action on that. Why would the woman be the one leading the exclusivity conversation? That just sets the stage for the woman to be the pursuer and the man to be going along with it. Let me tell you something for you as a woman. The worst thing that can happen for you is you lead the conversation of exclusivity, and then that guy gets to mistreat you or cheat on you or whatever, and then he gets to turn around and tell you that this isn't ever what he wanted, that he only went along with it because that's what you wanted. And you might think to yourself, would guys really say that? I wish we could play a clip from The Ultimatum where JR and his girlfriend, when the show started, they were talking back again after the show. And then she started talking about, I took you out and we were doing this and we were doing that and I thought we were working on our relationship again. And you want to know what JR said? That's what you wanted. She was like, oh, but we spent our birthdays together. He's like, yeah, because you wanted to spend our birthdays together. Oh, but we did Valentine's. Yeah, because you wanted to spend Valentine. I just went along with it because I felt bad about letting you down. And I knew that you wanted to be with me and be around me. And then she felt like an idiot because for the first time she was hearing that essentially this is not what he wanted. And she had been the one leading all of this, which is why I tell you, for you as a woman, don't put yourself in that situation that a guy can tell you, I didn't want this and I was just following your lead. Force him to be the one who takes the lead. That way, when it's time to be accountable for things and it's time to apologize for his bad behavior or whatever the case may be, he can't say that he wasn't the one that wanted this. In fact, it will be more on him because if he was the one that wanted to push this and progress this forward and then he starts acting a fool, it won't make any sense because he's the one that asked you out or asked you to be exclusive and led the relationship. That's a much better place in terms of accountability than the other way around. Because I know how guys are, and I know that's the number one excuse they'll come to if you do it the other way.
So I don't understand how you are exclusive without being boyfriend girlfriend. So how is that conversation? It's like, okay, I'm just gonna see you and you're just gonna see me, but I don't want to put a label on it because what? Why? So I don't understand.
Okay, I think that this right here, what Coco's referring to, this is a cultural thing. It doesn't mean it's a good or a bad. All it means is that in some cultures, the aspect of, okay, we go on a couple of dates doesn't mean that we're going to necessarily get married. After we go on a couple of days, we feel each other out. Then there's a transition period between feeling each other out, going on a couple of dates. And then eventually we're going to be boyfriend and girlfriend soon, but we're just confirming a couple more things to see if we're really a match here. What I found is that usually is a cultural thing. In some cultures, the idea of boyfriend and girlfriend doesn't even exist. So to say that just sounds like stupidity in itself. You meet someone and you decide to get married or not. Now, I'm not here to say what's the right or wrong way to go about it, but I get it. Maybe for her, it doesn't make any sense. But for you, I also don't want you in a position where a guy asks you to be his girlfriend in the first 2 weeks and you don't even know his middle name. And we can start getting into dicey territory because, yeah, you have commitment in the sense that he's your boyfriend, but then you also have to factor in some things like at that point, you haven't even met his friends. And you can also, I hate to say all these situations that could scare you, but you can also be like what I describe as a ghost girlfriend. You know that a guy can like meet you, and let's say he meets you and you live in a different country or a different city than him. He can ask you to be his girlfriend, go back home and live his life like nothing ever happened, because no one knows about you. None of his friends have ever met you, and none of his family has ever met you. So he doesn't really have to be committed to you. And you can be his girlfriend from your perspective, but from everyone else's perspective, you don't even exist. And so I just, I like to put that in your mind, not so that you'll be worried, but just so that you can continue to think situations through and not fall for, easy traps. Because that's another one that can be an easy trap, being like a ghost girlfriend.
Ladies, if a guy is telling you we're exclusive, but you're not in an actual relationship, you need to nip that in the butt and call it out. Because here's the thing. I hate to sound cynical, but this is the truth. One, when a guy says that, it's because he's uncertain about you. And if he's uncertain, he's going to go towards what is most advantageous for him, which is to still have the assets or the benefits that you offer without actually paying the costs of the relationship. That's number one. And number two, this isn't men, this is just people in general. There is a reward system to lying. So if you are both agreeing to this and you actually follow through and he doesn't, again, he has his cake and eats it too. There is a reason why he is not transitioning over into a relationship. If it feels like a relationship, if we're talking and getting along and everything's great and stuff like that, I'm exclusively talking to you, well, why not transition into a relationship? There's a reason. And if it's uncertainty, that's fine. He just needs to say it. Okay, so never, ever, ever accept the fact that you're exclusive, but not in an actual relationship, because at the end of the day, there is no threat in losing you. There is risk avoidance, no competition. He doesn't have to fear other guys in the picture, and you're never going to get a relationship out of it.
Sorry, I was muted. Mute King here. We had a show on Thursday or sometime last week, and the show's title was The Complete Sex Timeline So That Men Fall in Love with You. Now, the thing about that is, and what I want you to kind of take from that show to implant into here and what he's talking about, is the exclusivity conversation is not a bad conversation to have. And I don't want you to have some irrational fear that anytime a guy asks you to be exclusive, that it's just some sort of like, weird manipulation that he doesn't want to be. I don't want you to be thinking about it like that. But what I also think is very important, if a guy is at the point where he's asking you to be exclusive, I need you to before you say yes to any of that, I need you to meet the other people in his circle. Like, I'm talking friends, and if not at that point, at least one family member. It doesn't have to be mom or dad, right? Even if it's in his extended family. The reason I say that is because it just makes me nervous when guys will ask you to be exclusive and you don't have anybody yet who you can corroborate the story of who he is and what he's about before you're committing to being exclusive with this guy. Because understanding who he really is by talking to friends and being able to have conversation with them will give you a lot of insight to whether this exclusivity talk means that he really wants to be with you, or whether this exclusivity talk is just him talking so he can extract from you. And I know it sounds very convoluted because you're like, Tomisin, how can I tell which one it is? I don't know. I'm so confused. I don't know how to think or what to feel. What I want you to do is continue gathering information. If it feels off or weird to you, meet his friends. Please. If you're feeling strange or weird about his behavior, you're feeling like he's hiding something or keeping secrets, don't give him anything until you meet his friends and have conversations with those friends. Okay? Melanie says, what if he doesn't have friends? Let me ask you a question, Melanie. Why would you want to date the man who has no friends? If nobody likes him enough to be friends with him, what makes you think he has qualities that are likable enough to be in a relationship with that man? That's very strange. Because anyone who is kind, caring, is generous, a honest person, a trustworthy person, people would want to be friends with that person. What's the reason that a guy would not have any friends, that you can't meet, not a single human being that would call themselves his friend? You don't think that that's a little bit strange, right? most of the time, it's not that a guy doesn't have any friends, it's that he wants to present to you a situation in which he has no friends so he can continue to isolate you, which I've talked about in previous shows before. Isolation is a great tactic to manipulate you. And this is one I actually want you to be concerned about, because if I can isolate you as a guy, I can tell you any story and you're forced to believe in that story because you have nothing to corroborate it. If I tell you that I'm the next in line to be in the royalty family and the Prince of England, that if a couple people die and pass away or get sick, that I'm next in line in the royal family, who do you have to corroborate that? If you don't know any of my friends, you don't know any of my family, you have no one to confirm that that story is true. Now I can tell you anything. I can be anyone. I can change my whole I can take a personality from the internet. I can copy and paste all of his word sayings and mannerisms and pretend that that's me, show that to you in a couple of dates, and you'll be convinced that that's me. And then you'll have nobody that you can ask to be like, is that actually who he is on a regular basis, right? And think about that. And think about how powerful that is in terms of a manipulation tactic when I can convince you that I have no friends so you don't bother looking for any of them. Not a single friend. Not a single one. All right, chat. Let's hop into our next portion of the show, a very, very important part of the show here. If you know what is coming, please, those of you who are OG members of the Players Club, you can spam it up in the chat. Some of you are new here, so you're about to see something very, very special. Okay, it's a special time. It's an amazing time. Is that a... No, it's a spill. It's a time where you're going to laugh and you're going to cry. Don't look at your clock. Don't look at your watch. Don't look at your phone. Don't look nowhere else in your entire home. If you don't know the time, I'm going to tell you the time. Time. Okay. All right, chat. For those of you who have no idea what that is, this is what we call Discord time. Discord time is such an amazing, special time. I'm going to describe to you how this works. So, Discord times where all the amazing members of our Players Club community get an opportunity to ask me a question about their situationship or their relationship, and I answer it live on the show. Now, there are a couple of different ways in which you can submit your question to me, and I'll tell you all of those three. Now, the first one is submitting your question to our free relationship advice forum. Now, I'll tell you and explain to you how this works. You go to the link in my bio on TikTok or in my description, click where it says Players Club Discord. Then once you join in here, you can just drop your question into our free section here. Now you see all of these highlighted questions here that I'm scrolling past. These are questions that I have not yet gotten to. It is a first come, first serve forum, okay? So oldest questions get answered first. Now, obviously, I have to scroll down very far. It's like 20 days old here, so it's gonna take me a couple of weeks before I can get to your question. I'm just one man. Now, if you're impatient and you're like, Tomisin, I want to ask my question today. I can't wait a couple of weeks for you to get to my question. I need it answered right now or by tomorrow. I can't wait. It's too time sensitive. You also have an option to send in what we call a premium relationship advice question. Now, the way that this works is this is like our section where people get to skip the line if they want to skip the line. The option here is that you're able to get your question read out first because I read all of these in our premium section out first before I go to the free section. Now, the way that you get your question in here properly is by first going to the link in my bio on TikTok or in my description. You click where it says Premium Discord Relationship Advice. Click that link, and then it's going to prompt you to donate to the show and also put in the title of your username and the title of your, title of your question. And then once you put that in, I get a notification on my phone and I see that that's you and that's your question. I'm able to verify that your question is supposed to be in our premium section, and I read it out first before I go to our free questions. Now, the third way to send in your question is by dropping it into our hotline here. It's our private hotline. Now, this one, the way that this works is for those of you who don't want your information to be read out on the show, you can send me a private question in which you go to the link in my bio on TikTok or in my description on YouTube, click where it says private relationship advice. You type your question out to me, you submit it out to me, and then I respond with a voice message, usually 8 to 10 minutes long. And then I send it back to you through your email. No one else sees that question except for me, or your information except for me. I promise you, no one else reads it. Okay. Let's go on to our premium questions to start off our questions for today. First, we have MK. So MK asks, how to move forward. Hello, I am 38 and I have been analyzing my dating experiences for the past 10 years, trying to figure out how to become more successful. I noticed that men put me in the fun box and somehow I always end up in casual situationships. I have not had a serious relationship for the past 10 years. I live in NYC. You live in the biggest city in North America and you couldn't find someone you like? I don't understand how to get out of this loop. I am struggling to figure out why men would not want to marry an educated and successful woman like me. One explanation could be that I have low self-esteem, but I am not sure that's true. How you're not sure? If you have, it's your self-esteem. How are you not sure? I noticed that usually my thinking is this casual situationship is better than nothing at all. That's not a good thought process. One more thing I notice, guys sometimes don't like the fact that I am a foreign worker on a work visa. What to change in my thinking and how to have more serious results in dating. Okay. One thing I'll say, the first way to change your results is to change your approach and your mindset. So things that are concerning to me in your message, this mantra, because this is like your self-talk that you're saying to me right now. This casual situationship is better than nothing at all. Cut that out. Cut that out. Because what's happening here is you're now in a state of desperation where you feel like good, healthy relationships with men who desire me and want me is not for me. So I'll take scraps. And as long as I can get some scraps, that'll be good enough for me. That is already hindering you from having good relationships because your self-talk to yourself is that I only deserve scraps and I should be happy with scraps. I get the leftover guys that no one wants. I get the guys with major problems. I get the guys who don't really want me or just want to sleep with me and don't really want to build a relationship with me because that's all I deserve is scraps. You're talking to yourself that way. And I can tell that because you're also questioning if the guys don't want you because of low self-esteem, which can actually be a factor. I agree. That could be affecting your ability to have good relationships because let me let you in on a secret. A woman with confidence is attractive to men because they understand if you have confidence within yourself, then you must have value because you're confident about your value in order for you to even walk around with that level of confidence. Vice versa, if you have a lot of insecurity and a lack of confidence, they don't think to themselves, oh boy, I want to build her up and be with her. They think to themselves, first of all, that's someone I can take advantage of. Okay, because she has such low self-esteem and low self-worth. And then secondly, they think to themselves, well, why would I think she's valuable if she doesn't even believe in her own value? Right? If you think about it, it makes sense. If someone seems to not even believe that they're good enough, that they can't even walk around with confidence or feel like they're worthy of people wanting or desiring them, then why me as a guy who's going to be investing my time and energy into you, why would I then be in belief of something that you don't even seem to be in belief of yourself? It doesn't make any logical sense, right? And so I say that because you might not understand how that's affecting your energy and your aura that you're outputting to everyone that you meet. And not just in the way that you might carry yourself or walk around the room, but even in the way that you might talk about yourself and talk about your relationships and talk about your life. This is the other thing that could be happening to you, MK, when you go out on your dates and you start dating men. You might get into the business because the same way you're communicating to me, oh, the casual situationship is better than nothing at all. See, this is like it starts to ooze through your pores. It's going to sound very weird. All of this energy and thought process starts to ooze through your pores. As you talk and have conversation with men, you will start talking this same way. This last guy that I was with, he treated me like garbage. He cheated on me 80 times. He never wanted to be with me. He never wanted to take care of me. I just find that in every relationship I'm in, the guys always abandon me. They choose someone else or they don't want to be with me. And you'll actually be on your dates with like potential partners telling them this and talking to them this way. They're going to hear that and they're going to say, boy, oh boy, why would I want to be with this girl? She's going on and on and on about how all of these guys treated her like garbage, like bottom of the barrel, like scum underneath their shoe. You're thinking, oh, I'm just sharing my experiences. But they're thinking in their mind, I don't want to be with the girl that's like the scum of the earth that all the men use and abuse. If anything, I'm going to be here to do the same thing as them, because all these men, right, are coming into your life and they're thinking they're better than all the previous men. So when you tell them all the ways that you get treated like scum, I know you're asking a question here, right? But that self-esteem issue can start to make you start telling men how you get treated like scum. They start thinking to themselves, if you get treated by scum, like scum by the guys who are less than me, I'm definitely not going to be the one who props you up and puts you on a pedestal. I'll treat you like scum. In fact, I might even treat you worse than the scum that they treated you as. I know it sounds horrible, but you have to understand how like men are perceiving value, and your communication of your own value or your self-talk can actually make that situation much worse or much better, right? Because they're either seeing someone who's confident and secure, or they're seeing someone with very little confidence that has been treated really poorly by everyone else. Okay, so something to think about. Obviously, I'm not you and I'm not on your dates with you, but something to think about, is this manifesting itself not just in my self-talk, in the way I present myself, in the way I talk about myself, talk about my life and my relationships, and the way that other people treat me, even when I'm on dates. Okay, right? Let's hop into our next, I think that was the only premium question I had here. Let's hop into our jam-packed free section here that I have to scroll for miles with. I might have to get a new mouse that scrolls faster. Okay, so LP baby, I did this question clearly. Let me make sure I click off of that. Okay, we did have one here to get from LP baby. So she says, LP baby says, please clarify and advise. Thank you for reading. Dear Mr. Atobatele, this is very professional. You refer to some terms that I need clarification on. What does slutting out mean? What does it mean to be slutted out? Can you please give specific examples? Are P. Diddy parties, I think you meant to say, examples of being slutted out? Unsure what you mean, because my ex was vanilla even though he was bi, and had between 60 to 100 sexual partners. Not slut shaming, but I feel like if he had a lot of partners, you would think he would be experienced enough to be good, right? They were a quadruple star sign Scorpio. Okay. I say this because Scorpios are known to be very sexual, and I was very disappointed by this one. So the pineapples were very vanilla. Pineapples just means SEX chat, it's our code word. Underwhelming and disappointing. He would just get on top of me and jackrabbit himself. It always hurt and I hated it. Oh my God. Oh my God. I like to be spanked and called out of my name, degrading names, during pineapples. We're having this type of, it's this type of day chat. I hope all the under 20 people are gone. So does that count as being slutted out? Yes, that's part of it, yes. Is that still considered vanilla? No, that's not considered vanilla. My ex wouldn't be inclined to do this, really. I would have to ask for it, which was already a turnoff for me, because the way I felt if I have to ask for something, I don't want it now. I understand. Now I understand the whole communication is key. This is actually perfectly aligned with our show today. And I need to be clear and ask for what I want. But if the man that I'm with doesn't desire me to the point of wanting to do dirty things to me, I don't want it anymore. My squirtle would get dry. Squirtle is our code word for what's in between your legs, chat, in case you're new here. He would claim I was so wet for him, but that's only because I would think That's only because I would think of someone else like my ex or literally anything else. Let me gonna take a stretch chat. Gonna take a stretch chat. That's wow. 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 Okay. I didn't expect to go like this today. Okay. Wasn't anticipating we were gonna go here today. It's Monday. We're in like our second question of the day here. We're going deep. I didn't know that we were going here. All right. So I'm gonna have to give a real detailed answer here. Okay. Just had to do some stretching out and realign my chakras. Okay. All right. For example, okay, you have examples. Okay. My ex would just treat me like his princess and call me a good girl, which was sweet, but it didn't do it for me. His pee-pee was decently sized because I turned him on, so it would enlarge. Why are you saying that like that? Why are you saying that like that? LP baby, why are you saying that like that? But unfortunately, the feeling wasn't mutual, and I would just practice pineapples with him and fake being satisfied afterwards. This is literally exactly what we were talking about today. He never came. Wait, what? He never came ever. Is that weird? Wait, what? Wait. What do you, wait, what? He never came. What? This said, is it true that our bodies know when someone isn't right for us? Because pineapples feels like grape with my ex. Let me know your thoughts. Was this edited for our show today? Also, what are house calls? Is that phone sex? No, I'll explain all of this. Or is that just going over to someone's place, home, room to hang out? Yes, that's what I mean when I say a house call. I mean going over to someone's house for the hangout, okay? How could I broach my sexual desires, pineapple desires, to my future partners so that they are primed to what turns me on without me having to ask for it in the heat of the moment, in the bedroom, bathroom, wherever? Thank you, and my best regards, Tommy. Okay. Let's start from the top here. Slut it out. What this means is, I'm trying to not be super graphic about this. There's a difference between sleeping with a guy, just sleeping with him regularly, and doing nasty things, okay? Nasty not in a bad way, just nasty in a, interesting way, that's outside of just sleeping with someone. So that consists of the things that he might be doing to you. Could be tying you up, it could be degrading you, it could be calling you degrading names, it could be, I'm trying not to get too graphic, it could be him spitting places on you, on your body. It could be you spitting places, like whatever the case may be. It could be he's doing a lot of things to you. It could be tying you up, whatever the case is. It's the next level of pineapples, of sex. That's not just the act of doing it. So the reason that I'm saying that is like all of those additional things. That's what I mean by that. So there's nothing wrong with that. But I say that because that's an extra level that I wouldn't ever advise you to be doing with men who don't have full commitment to you, because there's a thing called aftercare that is very important for your feeling of security in your relationship. And after you finish doing all of this stuff, you need to feel good about the act of doing that. And there needs to be a total 180, especially if he was spending a lot of time degrading you. There needs to be kind of like a centering of you feeling like he still cares about you and still wants to be with you and you're safe here. Because if there's not, there will be you'll feel very uncomfortable afterwards. And instead of you feeling like that was a good experience, you'll start to associate that experience with shame because you feel like that person did that to you and then they don't care about you. Okay. So this is actually if you're going to explore this part of your relationships, You need to understand this. You also need to have what I call a safe word. Okay. This isn't sexology, but it's very important to have a safe word as well, because when you're doing this, there needs to be an understanding of what's the boundary. And in some cases, I'm not trying to get too graphic. In some cases, when you're getting slutted out, you could also be associating part of your positive experience with receiving physical pain. Okay. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but in those cases, there needs to be an understanding of this physical pain is giving me enjoyment versus this physical pain is crossing my boundary. So safe words are important in order to understand the difference between I'm turned on in pain and I'm actually in pain. I want this to stop. So if you don't understand what I just said there, it's fine. It's not even for you anyways. Okay. This is for people that know what I'm talking about. Now, when it comes to communication about this, obviously, you guys should be discussing this on an ongoing basis. I advise even before you actually sleep with each other, but I don't advise you to be doing this in the first 3 to 4 dates. I would rather you be doing this when you're months into dating someone on a consistent basis and broaching the subject heavily in person for the first time rather than over the phone. Because I feel like over the phone, it just becomes dirty talk and it doesn't actually get you a better understanding of that guy. But after a while of you consistently dating someone and you guys are in the realm of exclusivity and you still haven't slept with each other, this is a topic that should be had, because remember, we talked about your enjoyment, and you should also enjoy the process of sleeping with a man. It shouldn't just be his enjoyment. It's very important to understand how he approaches it to see if you guys are even aligned in that part of your life there, right? Also, like I mentioned, men who are interested in pleasing their woman will also be interested in pleasing their woman in the way that is pleasing for her. So if you mention certain things that you like and you appreciate or you want done to you, there should be, if he has a desire to make you happy, an understanding that, okay, I'm going to attempt to do these things for you. If the case is that he doesn't want to do those things for you or he's not interested in doing those things for you, then I think that there's a misalignment in your approaches to pineapples, to sex. And if that's the case, unfortunately, I think that it's best to just realize this probably isn't the person for you. Because if you're feeling like there's such a misalignment where the guy that you're into has, is a vanilla guy, and then you're someone who likes to get really down and nasty, or maybe vice versa, you're a vanilla type of girl and you don't really like to explore too deeply in certain things, and then you have another guy who really likes to get nasty and dirty, you guys are misaligned there. That's okay. But if you're misaligned there, it's better to just say, yeah, let's go ahead and find different partners that we're more aligned with in this part. Because if you're not aligned, you'll find yourself very frustrated over the course of time, kind of like you were here, okay? Someone says, what is vanilla? Vanilla just means that you just like to do the basics. Missionary, I love you, things like that. Yep. And then basically over, right? Nothing really more than missionary, I love you, the basic stuff, okay? The other part is all the other stuff, like going deeper, dirty talk, name calling, however you want to do it, okay? Lots of exploring to do in that sense. If you're vanilla, doesn't mean you're a bad person. If you're vanilla, you can still be a great person and still have great relationships, right? And romantic relationships. It just means that you should also align yourself with someone who is also vanilla. If you like to get really down, dirty, and nasty, you should be aligned with someone who likes to get down, dirty, and nasty. Because you'll be frustrated if you're not aligned in that part of your relationship, okay? Let's hop into our next question. Let's see here. Let's see. Okay, so I did that one. LP baby, we'll put a pin in yours so that we can get to some other questions. You have lots here waiting. This one from A. Okay, this one from A says, when to meet friends and family. What? Oops, I do that one. Yes, I did. Thank you, Missy America. Okay, let me go back again. I did that one already. And we scroll. Let me see. This is deleted user? Need advice, naive connection. We did that one. Jessica. Okay. So we're going to do Jessica's. Jessica says, do I just let the men cook? Hi, I'm 21. And when it comes to dating, I give men minimum 3 days and maybe a week, if I'm generous, to schedule setting up a date after first texting me. Are you talking about from a dating app? And I also prefer when men confirm the date 24 hours in advance. Nothing wrong with that. Sometime in September, now for guy number 1, he was 28. I sent him a text a week after meeting in person along the lines of saying that if he's just after texting, I'd rather not continue because I'm more of an in-person girl. He planned the date, but looking back, I wonder when or if he was going to set something up if I hadn't sent that text. That's the other part of that. When you take the lead and you tell him what he wants when he never even asked, you never know what he was actually planning on doing. All you know is that he did what you told him to do or what you said that you wanted. That's the problem. I don't know, and it's not my concern since I ended things with him. That's a whole other story. But if I stayed with him, I know I would have been steering the relationship. In the past month, then we have guys number 2 and number 3. Dating app guys who were 26 years old, and guy number 2 never responded to me after I told him we should reschedule because even if he said that date was still on, I still didn't know the time and location of the place. I should also note that the evening before I sent the rescheduling text, I told him that I appreciate when when any guy I'm talking to confirms 24 hours before the scheduled date. Okay, so you told him how you feel. Guy number 3 asked me 2 to 4 times if I was still open to meeting him, and he said he wanted to meet me, which now has me thinking he maybe was asking me that for some validation thing, then ghosted me. Oh, okay. My questions are, I mentioned my standards in the beginning. Should I communicate that with men I meet? But I just had a date this weekend with this new man, so this is like guy number 5, who has showed up correctly so far, and I didn't even need to tell him to show up or initiate. Isn't that shocking? Isn't that shocking? And also with guy number 3 saying that they want to meet up with me and yada, 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 how do I deal with that? As in, do I just let them say that and observe what he does or doesn't do based on what he said? Or do I respond with something like, okay, just let me know when and where, something like that, but subtle. Okay, so you're getting it, but you just need this confirmation. I'm going to give you this confirmation. You do not do any steering with men in the beginning of your relationship with them. I know, see, when you become good at handling things in your life, at work, at school, whatever the case may be, you might start to transfer that same energy into your relationships with men. See, if you live your life as a boss woman or just someone who gets things done, right? You're strong, you're independent, you know what you want and all that good stuff. That's good. But what you want to remember is, as a woman, in order for you to have happiness in your relationship, you need to feel like you're able to exist in your feminine. The problem is, if you're leading a relationship, you won't feel like you're able to exist in your feminine. So for men, you have to train them from the very beginning that in order for them to get access to you, they need to take action on their desire to see you, and they need to be the one leading the relationship and pursuing you. If you start relationships off by giving guys ultimatum, you better see me or ask me out on a date in the first 3 days. I don't do all this texting stuff. You better do this. You better do that. You better do this. You better do that. In the perfect world, kind of like we talked about in Sabrina's video that we watched earlier, when she talked about say this, say that, tell them you want this, tell them you want that. Sounds good in a perfect world. But in reality, when you communicate like that to men, either the first thing will happen where you'll go out with him and you won't know whether or not he was really serious or intentional about you, and you'll start questioning that the whole time. Or number 2, you'll just have guys maybe never respond to that or never give you what you want, and you'll be frustrated wondering why that is the way that it is. What I want you to accept is that guys will always take the action that they feel like taking with you. And that will be based on his desire to spend time with you or see you. So, perfect example of this is the date that you just went on with a guy. But I had a date with the guy this weekend and this new man who has shown up correctly. So somehow he was able to read your mind and do what you needed him to do. And you didn't even need to tell him to show up or initiate. That is the exact type of guy you should be looking for. I'm not saying that the men in your life should be absolutely perfect from the very beginning, but it's easy to take initiative and say, I like this girl. I think she's cool. I think she's a vibe. I want to explore it more, and I want to ask her out on a date. In the process of me asking her out on a date, I'm going to communicate, when we're going to see each other, when I want to see her, where I want to see her, the timing. I'm going to schedule it and plan it with her, okay? The guys who want you, they magically somehow know how to get this done when they want to get this done. Magically also, when you meet guys and they're not very serious, it becomes very confusing to be with them and you feel like you need to take the lead. Part of the same reason why I advise against meeting a bunch of guys on dating apps, because by the time they start messaging you from the dating app, they're messaging you and 15 other girls that they've met from the dating app. So they're not even taking it as seriously as another guy who might meet you at a grocery store that isn't using dating apps. Because when he meets you at the grocery store, gets your number through that, then he's like, wow, that was such a great conversation. I want to see that one woman that I met at the grocery store again. Versus the guys who meet you on a dating app, you're one of like 25 that he's messaging at that current moment. And he probably, if it wasn't for him seeing your name and profile picture, he wouldn't even be able to remember your face if he saw it in public. So they're not thinking of it as, oh, I just started messaging her. I'm going to then ask her out on a date in 3 days. And if you think about it, logically, it makes sense because the men who are on dating apps are meeting so many women. Imagine if they went on a date with every woman that they message after 3 days of messaging them on the dating app. They would be going out on hundreds of dates. These men don't have that type of money. So I say that to say your expectation is not necessarily a bad thing in terms of what you want. But your expectation is actually suffering because of the place that you're meeting a lot of these men. You're expecting men to want to go out with you after 3 days of messaging you, but then you're meeting the men who are messaging the most amount of women at once. So if you want to see more success, you need to go to a place where the men aren't heavily messaging women at all times of the day, which is almost damn near like anywhere except for, a dating app. That's like the worst place to go for that. Okay. And that is something to take note of. Also, take note of the fact that when you wanted something, you got it from a guy who just was able to give it to you because he wanted you. And you didn't have to do any telling him ahead of time. You didn't have to do any mentioning of this or that or set any ultimatums. He just did it. It's crazy how it's that easy to do nothing when a guy actually has desire for you and has intention for you. When you just do nothing, it just works. Doing nothing with guys who actually don't have real intention or want to be with you always is very hard and difficult. Okay. So I hope that brings some clarity for you. Let's go on to our next question here. Okay. We'll put a pin in all of these here. There's like three in a row. All right. Let's read out Creeks. Okay. Creek says, hello, I'm a 29-year-old female and I've been seeing a 29-year-old man for almost 2 years. We met when I moved to a new town for work and he started showing interest in me. We lived in the same building and though I didn't initially see him romantically, he kept trying for about a year. At the time, I wasn't ready for a serious relationship due to a chronic illness. While I was recovering from a long marriage with kids and a divorce, which had happened 5 years earlier. In the summer of 2024, I asked him to teach me Spanish, and we ended up kissing on a bridge. What? You must be smooth or something. I don't know how teaching you Spanish turned into kissing on a bridge. For him, it was a significant moment since he had been waiting for me. We started dating, but had a few breaks, usually about 2 weeks long. His main reason was feeling unsure if he was good enough for me. Despite the breaks, we kept running into each other randomly. Didn't you say you live in the same building? Oh, no, sorry, moved for work, right? No, you lived in the same building. What do you mean running into each other? You live in the same building. It's not that random, okay? Like the time we met in the rain and ended up walking back together. I realize now that letting him back so easily was a mistake. Well, it depends. What was the reason that it ended? Over time, I became more insecure, especially after more breaks where he doubted himself. You became okay. However, he was also planning a future with me, and we got along well. After 4 months of dating, I had to leave town for 3 months. We decided to take a break, unsure if I'd return. What would you be doing for 3 months that you would be unsure if you would even come back? Before I left, he told me he wanted to marry a girl like me one day, and I gave him an ultimatum. If I come back, he could only see me if he was serious. Okay. Now I'm moving back in 3 weeks and we're in no contact. How will I know if he truly wants to be with me when I return? How should I behave? Should I make him wait, or should I just be upfront and say, here I am, let's give this a try? Okay. Let me say something and then I'm going to answer your question directly. Part of the reason you're confused here is because you've spent some time trying to progress this forward. And when you tried to progress it forward, you were confused about his response. And it put you in a weird place because you were like basically nudging to try and get him to take the lead. And then when he didn't take the lead, you were confused and frustrated. And then you're like, wait, I was only trying to nudge you so that you could take the lead. But now you're not taking the lead. I'm a little bit frustrated and confused now. And then he's like, wait, but I thought you were nudging me not because you wanted me to take the lead, but because you wanted to take the lead. So you've set this weird precedent where now everyone's confused on who's supposed to be taking the lead. What I want you to do, Creek, when you return, okay, is obviously, he has no way of knowing if you're actually going to be there. So let's be a little bit fair to him and you in this situation. He'll only know that you're back when you say that you're back. All you have to do is send him a message saying you're back. Now, if you want to do this in a more subtle way, instead of saying I'm back, if you know that he follows you and you know that he watches all your stories in the first 30 seconds, what you can do instead of sending him a direct message, hey, I'm back, is you can just post a story on your Instagram, on your Facebook, on your WhatsApp, whatever, that shows that you're back in your city, back in your place, right? That he can know that you're back and you're here. Now you allow him to reach out to you and say, oh, you're back now, or oh, how was your trip, or whatever the case may be. That is a more subtle way to give a hint that, hey, I'm here again, without you doing the reaching out. Now, what I will say to this, after you do that, you need to let him take the lead. You're not going to ask him to hang out. You're not going to ask him to spend time together. You're not going to ask him for anything at all. You're going to see what he wants to do with you. If he says, hey, we should go out, we should spend some time together, I want to take you out, I want to see you again, then you can say, okay, and then you go, let him plan it, let him schedule it. Then when you see him out on the date, let him do the talking. And when it's your time to talk, use that as an opportunity to ask him questions about what he thinks, what he's experienced in these past 3 months that you've been gone, what he's realized about himself, right? It's always good whenever you haven't seen someone for an extended period of time, ask them about some realizations that they've come to in that period of time. Because that will tell you a lot about where he's at currently. When you're not seeing someone, everyone has an idea of how they'll feel in 3 or 4 months, right? Oh, I'm still going to miss you in 3 or 4 months. I'm going to want this. I'm going to think this. It's going to be like this. But as time goes on, things change, situations happen. Sometimes people feel differently. So asking him about his realizations could consist of one of two answers. He might tell you, well, I realize that, I am in a place right now where I'm still figuring things out and I want to get in a better financial situation or whatever situation for myself and just kind of focus on the things that I need. Or he might say, I realize being away from you that I really want you to be in my life and you're the best thing that's ever happened to me. I've been, since you were gone, he might not say I've been super sad, but he might just say, I miss the times we used to spend together and I realize how important you are to my life. Now, you can start saying, okay, I'm getting a sense that that realization that he came to is that he wants to be serious, right? I'm not saying that you necessarily make that assumption without him actually saying that, but you'll be able to tell more of where his mind is at when you ask him these types of questions if you end up going out on a date with him. Now, in an opposite sense, if you post your story that you're back, he sees it, he doesn't say anything to you, he doesn't message you, he doesn't call you, he lives in your building. So you're going to see you at some point. He doesn't say nothing, then just take that as he probably is not that serious to him anymore. But what I want you to do is if he doesn't reach out to you, doesn't say nothing to you, just accept that he's not that serious about it and be okay with that. Don't do that. Don't feel that and then be like, okay, well, I need to save this. Okay, don't try to save it. Just allow him to show you what he wants out of this situation. Because if he asks you out on a date and he's intentional about that, then you can start saying, okay, I have some questions for you. But if he's not going to reach out, not going to say nothing to you, then you don't have nothing to say to him. That is the best way to guarantee that a man actually wants you and wants to be with you, and you're not in your own head in some delusional state trying to force this to happen when that's not even what he wants. Okay? All right. Okay, chat, that is the show for today. For those of you who want to ask me a question, whether it is in our free section, in our paid section, or in our private section, you can ask me that by going to the link in my bio on TikTok or the link in my description on YouTube. For those of you who are watching me on TikTok, my Instagram is just above my head on the top left corner of the screen, Tomisin_Atub. You can follow me on Instagram there. For those of you who are watching me on YouTube, it's also down in the link in my description there where you can follow me there as well on Instagram and see everything that I'm doing. For those of you who are watching the show on TikTok and you missed parts or you came late or you want to rewatch, you can go up onto my YouTube. My YouTube is just on the top right of my head. It's just my first name. You can type in Tomisin. Once you go to my YouTube page, you can rewatch the show from start to finish by going to the live section, clicking that video titled the same title as this show, and then you'll be able to watch that there. You'll get the YouTube and the TikTok live chat embedded in the video, so you won't miss any of the conversation that we have there, okay? For those of you who want to catch me live on the show, again, I'm live every weekday, Monday to Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'll be here again tomorrow at 4 p.m. EST. I won't be late tomorrow because today was just a weird thing, but I will see you again at that time. We got to figure out what time 4 p.m. EST is in your time zone, okay? Until we meet again, I bid you adieu, arrivederci, hasta la vista, adios, sayonara, ciao, salam, bon voyage, and I'll see you again tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, bye for now. I love you so much. I see you again soon.